Hello, how's it going? I'm Steve Lane. I'm a rock and roll musician. I'm a vinyl junkie, and I wish I could live inside of music. Music is my favorite thing. I wish music could adopt me. I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. So today, we're going to talk about my favorite keyboardists. Last time we talked about my favorite guitarist. The time before that, we talked about my favorite vocalists. Today, we're going to be talking about my 11 favorite keyboardists. I just wanted to say yet again how thankful I am for everyone watching right now, everyone who's liked, everyone who's subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. It really helps the algorithms. If you haven't already done so before, I'd appreciate a like or subscribe. It may sound a little bit cliche because everyone asks for that. However, it does help the algorithms, and it really helps out a channel like mine that's just starting out. All right, let's get this one out of the way. Elton John, not on the list. Love you. I love you and Bernie. I think you're great songwriters. I've got tons of Elton. I've got Elton on vinyl. I've got tons of Elton on CD. I listen to Elton all the time. He's just not one of my favorite keyboardists. All he does is play piano. He plays some synth, like on Funeral for a Friend, which is a fantastic song, and I'm giving him an honorable mention. He's not one of my favorite keyboardists. When I think of like somebody that I just want to like listen to all the time, no matter what, I listen to Elton a lot. He's just not one of my favorite keyboardists. Oscar Peterson, phenomenal musician, one of the best jazz players of all time. I didn't have enough room for you on my list. Sorry, Oscar, in heaven. Keith Emerson, another one who's in heaven. Ah, man, I used to love Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I listened to a lot of ELP. He overplays, or he did overplay quite a bit. He soloed a lot and phenomenal talent. And he was on my list, and I just started thinking, how much do I really listen to him besides a few songs? I love him. He was great. He was fantastic. God rest his soul. He's just didn't make the list, sorry. And I love Keith Emerson, I really do. Bill Evans, it was really hard not putting Bill on the list. I'm a big fan, I love his music. He just didn't fit. I needed to cut a few out, and I had to take Bill Evans out, and I love Bill Evans very much. Greg Raleigh, first keyboardist from Journey. He's also a singer. He sang on Got a Black Magic Woman, Oye Como Va, Just the Same Way You Love Me, quite a few Journey songs. I love the guy. Man, what a great organist, pianist. He played the Prophet 5. I had a poster, huge Journey poster that came within the Captured album, and it was hanging above my bed, so I was always looking, Greg, what's up, bro? I love Greg Raleigh. He's got a new project out. It's doing really well. Love the guy. He just didn't make the list. I had to make a few cuts. Dave Grusin. Oh my gosh, another guy that didn't make the list. I just didn't have enough room for you. I have a lot of Dave Grusin albums. He did some great TV themes. He did some great movie themes. He did some great film scoring. And his solo work is phenomenal. GRP Records, he's the G. All right, so he was the executive producer for all that great 80s and 90s jazz. I love the guy, phenomenal talent. I just didn't have enough room for you. Dave Grusin, love his music. This is a tough one. I had to cut him because I don't listen to it that much. Vince Guaraldi. Yes, the Peanuts guy. Yes, the guy that did Linus and Lucy and all the Peanut stuff. Yes, that's how I got introduced to him when I was a kid. And then I realized his trio work was phenomenal. I'm a big fan. I had Cast Your Fate to the Wind. I've got quite a few of his CDs. I just don't listen to him all the time. It's kind of weird when you listen to like a hits and a Peanut song comes on. Doesn't matter though, Vince Guaraldi, he just barely didn't make the list. God rest your soul as well. Phenomenal musician. Last of the honorable mentions, but certainly not least, Jeff Lorber. He actually produced my producer, Jay Soto. The guy's he's a keyboard wizard. He's the one that really helped start this contemporary fusion jazz. He was my favorite keyboardist when it came to that style of contemporary jazz in the 80s and into the 90s. He's played on a lot of hits. He's phenomenal talent. I just didn't have enough room for him on the list. Jeff Lorber, love the guy. All right, now let's get into the actual top favorite keyboardists from where I'm coming from. These are not the best keyboardists. These are my favorite. These are my 11 favorites. Coming in at number one, I'm gonna go backwards. Number one favorite keyboardist of all time, period, Chick Corea. Chick, we miss you. We lost you last year. Oh my gosh, I got into him young. I had my Spanish Heart. It was actually my neighbor's album. I never gave it back. Sorry, this is a long time ago. This is the 70s. I never gave it back. I listened to my Spanish Heart a lot. I listened to Spain. And I mean, the song Spain, and I started like seeing him pop up here and this, and I bought his albums. And then in the 80s, he had this project called the Electric Band. And oh my gosh, I got to see the Electric Band live. At the time, they were my favorite band. I got to meet the band, John Patitucci, Eric Marenthal, Dave Weckl. I mean, these guys were just like powerhouse musicians, and Chick is just, oh my gosh, what a keyboardist. I think he's won more Grammys than any other jazz musician, and certainly any other keyboardist. He was a phenomenon. I shook his hand, never really met him, but I shook his hand twice in my life. Chick Corea. Number 2 favorite keyboardist. Technically, he should be number 1, but Chick was just the man. Tony Banks from Genesis. Tony Banks. Oh my gosh. So, quick backstory. Genesis had a song called No Reply at All in 1981, 82 is when it became the hit, and I heard it on the radio. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get that song. I recognize that voice. I've heard Phil Collins before, I heard Genesis before, but that was the song that really spoke to me. So I went out and got the album. And man, what a great album. And a lot of people don't like the album, Abacab. I love it. It introduced me to Genesis. And then the album that got me into Genesis was 3 Sides Live, which is a live album that came out just a little bit after Abacab. Oh my gosh, that's when I got to really hear Tony Banks play. I was like, whoa! The In the Cage medley, holy crap. Holy crap, you've got to hear it if you've never heard it. I got turned on to Genesis with the Abacab album. I got into Genesis with the 3 Sides Live album. And now as a super fan, and I have all their albums and blah, 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 I just can't deny the talent that Tony Banks has, all the songs that he's written, his amazing solos, yet he never really overdid it. Tony Banks is phenomenal. One of the best keyboardists, my second favorite keyboardist of all time. Love the guy. Number 3, he really should be number 1, but I might even give him his own segment, Stevie Wonder. Oh my gosh, how talented is this guy? 12 years old with a huge hit? I mean, yeah, Stevie Wonder, that's it. He plays every instrument, writes his own songs, he does everything. I don't have enough good things to say about Stevie. I used to have a VHS recorded in the 90s of a biography on Stevie Wonder, and Barry Gordy was talking. There's some chords out there, when you hear the chord, if you're a musician, you go, that's a Stevie Wonder chord. He's right. Stevie Wonder had his own style. He had his own chords. Probably the most talented musician of the past 100 years. In my humble opinion, Stevie Wonder. Love the guy. Always will, always have. Number 4, 4th favorite keyboardist. You probably have never heard of this guy. His name is Matt Cooper. He's from England. He lives in London. And he was the vanguard. He was like the main driving force of the whole acid jazz movement of the early 90s. If you're not familiar with it, I used to DJ acid jazz when I moved, and that was one of the first things I started doing in the coffee house, to start playing some acid jazz. It's really cool, funky jazz with the beat, and Matt Cooper was it. I mean, he was the gold standard, and he's still around now. He plays for Incognito, which is a soul funk jazz R&B group in London. They're huge. He's our musical director. He has been for years. He put out a lot of acid jazz albums on a label called Dorado. Yeah, and they were the gold standard of acid jazz. And he produced a lot of songs for Jalisa Anderson and D-Note, and his project was called Outside, and he's just all over that time period. It's just such an amazing feeling buying these albums and these CDs and just looking at them and just go, oh my gosh, he did everything. And I had a magazine called On the One. I had a couple of these issues, and they were basically like an acid jazz kind of magazine, and there's a big article on him, and he was so young, and they bought him a studio, and he was just, his style of playing is very unique. He's very soulful. He's beyond talented. Got to check him out. I'm going to put a playlist below. Number 5, Jonathan Cain from Journey. Back when I did the guitarist segment last time, I had to put Neil Schon in there. Yeah, I've got to put Jonathan Cain in there. Journey is one of the best bands ever. Jonathan Cain, his playing, his songwriting abilities, he can play guitar, he can sing. He's just a great all-around musician. He's a wonderful man. He's a nice guy. He's a pastor. He leads music at his church, and he's touring with Journey. I mean, come on. He's a really cool guy. But mainly the reason he's on this list is his ability. He's the one that brought synth into the band. Up till, I mean, Greg Rowley had his Prophet 5, yeah, but I mean, he really brought in like the Super Jupiter and like the beginning of Separate Ways with that Super Jupiter Roland lead. And it's just like, he brought the synth into Journey. And yeah, he can play organ, but you never really hear him playing organ. You're playing either synth or a piano. Love John Cale, one of my favorite musicians ever. All right, number 6. I listen to this guy a lot. I have since I was a kid, and it's not because of his big famous song with the famous video that won all the awards. Herbie Hancock. Herbie Hancock. Oh my gosh. His first solo album was called solo. He has, band behind him, which is all-star lineup. 1962 is called Taken Off. Oh my gosh, like his first real song was called Watermelon Man. I love that song. They use it in a lot of movies and whatnot. Herbie's style is just so recognizable. And he's a great keyboardist, pianist, great songwriter. He's played on everybody's albums. I don't have enough good things to say about Herbie. I love the guy. All right, coming in at number 7, Steve Winwood. Love Steve Winwood. I have ever since I was a kid. He is great. He does a lot of layering. I like the way that he sings. I like the way that he plays. I like the way he uses synth. He uses Fender Rhodes. He uses piano. He's awesome. I could go on and on and on about Stevie Winwood. I think I have all of his albums. I love him. He's great. Steve Winwood. Number 8. This is another one that you may or may not have heard of. His name is Richard Barberry. He was from a band called Japan, and now he's currently in a band called Porcupine Tree. I was and still am a huge fan of the band Japan. If you haven't heard of them, they're from England. Their sound influenced Duran Duran. They were something else. They were a complete art rock kind of band. And his style is very minimal. This is the only keyboardist on here I like because of his minimalism, because he knows how to hold back. He uses a lot of ambience. He uses a lot of space. This is the only keyboardist on the list because of what he doesn't play. He likes to fill the room with ambience more than he likes to give you a synth lead or a piano lead or something like, or he's going all over the place. He just wants you to understand that he's back there with his own soundscapes, virtually painting a background of ambience and space behind the music. He's fantastic. Richard Barberry from Japan, and now currently Porcupine Tree. Check him out. All right, my 9th favorite keyboardist. Again, you may or may not have heard of him, Ryuichi Sakamoto from Japan. Well, he was in the band Japan as a guest, but he's actually from the country of Japan, the island of Japan. And he did play with the band Japan quite a bit. And he played with David Sylvian quite a bit. The guy is a phenomenal film scorer. He did the film score to The Last Emperor. He actually acted in it as well. He's a great keyboardist, he's a great songwriter, he's a great producer. His style is very, cinematic. I don't know how else to describe him. And he can be very minimalist. He can conduct an orchestra. His music is just phenomenal. Ryuichi Sakamoto, love the guy. If you haven't heard him, I'm really gonna encourage you to check him out. All right, my 10th favorite keyboardist. Definitely heard of him if you don't know the name, Rick Wright from Pink Floyd. I mean, come on. The keyboardist from Pink Floyd, his sounds, his structure, his chords. He's a pretty good singer too, listen to Echoes. He just knew what to play at the right time for the right reasons without overplaying. You don't really ever hear him do a screeching solo or anything. You hear him do the right exact chords for a band that needed a lot of atmosphere. He provided it. For a band that needed a lot of keys behind it without being too dominant, he did it. I love his style of playing. I miss him, God rest his soul too. There's a lot of keyboardists on this list that are not with us anymore. He's definitely one of them. We miss him, Rick Wright from Pink Floyd. All right, coming in at number 11, this guy is pretty amazing. And I got turned on to him back in 2015. Yeah, 2015 I got turned on to Robert Glasper. He's on Blue Note, he's a jazz pianist. And when he started off on Blue Note, his first 2 albums were just trio. Now he's expanded out, and in 2014 he came out with an album called Black Radio, has a lot of great guest stars on it. Man, the guy is really groundbreaking. He's the one that I think is merging today's jazz with old jazz with modern hip hop, and he's just blending it in a way that no one has ever really done that I've heard so far. Kind of a pioneer in quite a few ways. I love it when he's just trio. I love it when he's doing something a little bit more hip hop. I love it when he's doing his dark jazz. He's good, man. He's phenomenal. He's a younger dude, and he's been around for over 20 years so on Blue Note. So he's fantastic. He's phenomenal. Okay, those are my favorites. Those are my 11 favorite keyboards with all the other honorable mentions and what have you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and letting me talk about my favorite keyboardists. And so until next time, be cool and keep rocking.